had that dream again. My small business needs to hire, but I don't use LinkedIn, and I hire wrong. So then I'm doing IT, and when I go to plug the servers in, they become sentient, and they won't let us access our network unless we forward their chain emails and memes to more and more and more people, and then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant finds and invites best fit candidates to apply, so you can discover talent you may have missed. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/quality. Start hiring today with LinkedIn.
Welcome to another Britflix.com podcast. My name is Stuart Wright, and today's guest is filmmaker Ben Wheatley. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning.
We are here to talk about your new movie, Bulk, a genre-fluid noir cum sci-fi conspiracy thriller, and you'll be sharing 3 films that have impacted everything in your adult life. Does that sound like what you've signed up for?
I think so, if I can remember what they are.
I will prompt you, don't worry. I will prompt you. Bulk is described on IMDb as a scientist, played by Mark Monero. String theory experiment goes wrong when his brain, spelt B-R-A-N-E, not the traditional way, explodes. Corey Harlan, played by Sam Riley, must find him, and the brain's caught in a mysterious house where doors lead to other worlds, guided by the dimensional being Aklima, played by Alexandra Maria Lara. I should add, she's aided and abetted and sometimes thwarted by another interdimensional being, Cessla, played by Noah Taylor, and we, the audience, are occasionally helped out by the soothing voiceover provided by Bill Nye. Bulk is going on the Narrative is Tyranny tour across UK and Ireland with Q&A screenings during January and February. I'll put links in the show notes so people can find out what's local to them. This film is probably the most fitting for the question I like to ask everybody when they come on is, what was the original kernel of an idea that led to the film that we now see as Bulk?
I think it came from a lot of different places, and some of it had come from, I wrote a graphic novel called Cosmic Music a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. I say a couple, it's probably like 10 years ago now, because everything's 10 years since COVID, isn't it? But
Indeed.
I think it's about 3 years ago. And I really enjoyed it, and enjoyed indulging in science fiction and the elasticity of comic book writing and the elasticity of science fiction and, playing in imagination and all that stuff. And I've recently been writing for 2000 AD as well. And it kind of has affected my script writing, and I thought, I'd love to write a science fiction story and something that was a bit lighter on its feet and a bit more kind of aggressively weird. And so it started out of that. And then it started from thinking about storytelling in itself and the structure of storytelling and how narrative works and how, when I was younger, I think I was naive about it, and I was excited about the idea of narrative was a thing. When you boil it down to storytelling, is like a fella or a lady sitting around a fire with the other people and telling them a story, and everyone leaning into the story and being amused by this story that might tell them give them some kind of information or kind of metaphor or for a guide to life, or just for entertainment. I thought that's what it was. But then in recent years, it seems to be narrative itself is a technology that can be used to make people do stuff. And like all the things that we used for storytelling in movies has been used to manipulate the population and myself, when I look at stuff. So I thought that was really interesting in trying to dig into that and find out.
You mean like as in like Chomsky's manufacturing consent, that kind of thing?
Yeah. I mean, it's not a massive epiphany.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And it's stuff that we were taught at school. I mean, a lot of this, I remember doing history at school about the Russian Revolution and the importance of propaganda and stuff. Yeah. But it all felt like it was in the past. But then it's kind of, now you look at it now and it's all very much right up in your face in the present, Yeah.
I did an MA in mass communications, and that turned out to be just the study of the history of news and capitalism.
Yeah. I mean, it's so fascinating, and it's like why why do you doom scroll? Why can't you take your eyes off it? Why are you interested in what child stars look like now? They're old.
Yeah.
Believe what they look like now. Well, I can believe it because people age, don't they? But somehow it drags me in to look at this stuff. And I was just thinking, and I was thinking about the idea of like narrative as a technology. And I've been thinking about it since In the Earth, really. And so it was kind of a continuation of that.
With so many ideas jostling for attention, because obviously you go interdimensional within a suburban house. What do you remember being the main story challenges then? Thinking of like if you're having that meta challenge as well, just trying to map it out for a film.
I think the thing about it is it's a simple tale told in a very complicated way. So the actual writing of it is not as complex as it might seem.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically along those lines. It's about the delivery of information as ever with a script, and a script's like a kind of equation. And as part of the shots, the performances the actors pull, and then the writing is all little kind of nuggets of information that add up to some kind of meaning at the end of each scene.
Yeah,
that give you the fuller picture, which is a general thing of filmmaking, but for this one more specifically. So, but if you already know what the picture is, then it's a much easier thing to understand than if you have to unpack it as a viewer, tiny pellets at a time.
Yeah, no, I mean, I must admit, first time I watched it, it completely baffled me. And then at the end, I felt like I'd landed in a safe place because it kind of felt like a resolution I could understand. Yeah. Almost like forgetting everything that had gone on. That's not a pejorative comment. It's just the way that you experience it. It's like a dream in a way. I'm sure Young would have a field day trying to unpack a lot of the way the sequences work.
I think that's true. I mean, there's lots of different types of cinema, aren't there?
Yeah.
And some cinema is it tells you what it is, and it reinforces it all the time, and tells you where you are, and says, "Don't worry, we're here."
Yeah,
and that's fine. That's a perfectly excellent type of cinema. And then there's other cinema that is an enigma and a challenge, and then hopefully at the end of it, you get something out of it and you understand it. And I think you can have both types. You can enjoy both types of cinema, and in the grand scheme of things, I think Bulk is not as difficult as some of the major bits of cinema. If you look at sort of Tarkovsky or something like that, it's no Stalker.
Yeah. No. And that was it. Because second time watching it, I could pick up those pellets really easy because the surprise of the shifts wasn't the same because I was expecting the seismic shifts just walking through a door. Whereas obviously when I'm first watching it, I'm going, they're going through a door in a house. Obviously there's just another room, not a whole nother dimension. You seemed, I mean, it's interesting you mentioned about comic writing because you seem to have fun with inventing language within Bulk. I've already mentioned the spelling of brain. And then you've got things like tapping another dimension for a power source, traveling interdimensionally. It's the new frontier, a privileged reality where this doesn't happen every day. And I love this one, fancy dimensional lifeboat. How much fun did you have playing with language with this film?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the fun things about writing is finding turns of phrase and kind of investigating into how your characters react to the world that they're in. That's and then seeing it being performed by excellent actors, even better.
Shot on camcorders, iPhones, GoPros, and SVHS. And also with scale models that you made, including both planes and helicopters. What were your discussions like with Nick Gillespie, the cinematographer, in terms of what you wanted the look and feel of Bulk to be? And how do you discuss look and feel when you mix in so much media?
I think that discussion had been a discussion that's been going on for almost 15 years with Nick. I mean, Nick, I met Nick on Ideal, the John Eager show, and he's worked on a lot of most of the films that we've done as either second unit or second camera, or so. In that time, I've chatted to Nick a lot, and he's got an interest in different formats and things like that. And we were always kind of buying old cameras, looking at old cameras, see how they work.
Yeah,
been trying to incorporate like small form cameras since Kill List, but it's taken time for the technology to catch up enough for us to be able to use them. So there is iPhone footage in the earth, and we tried to use multiple iPhones in that, but didn't quite come off. But some footage did get in, and I've always wanted to use VHS and SD format in stuff. But again, it was like, it's always been a bit too jarring between the two different, when you cut stuff against each other. But we finally found out, like we started to understand more, or we caught up with the technology to find that you can now affordably you can make these little camcorders record straight to digital rather than to tape, which is a big deal.
Okay.
And then while we were doing the research for bulk, we realized you can then get software to up-res SD to 4K. So you can take like low resolution footage and then and make it and change it into something else. And it doesn't look like it's not like it's trying to look like modern cameras, but what you get out of it is this kind of hybrid look, which looks a bit like 60s television to a degree, which is really interesting. And then the idea behind it was to basically, the world that they're in is unstable. And so the formats are unstable. The film is unstable. The language of cinema is unstable within it. The sets are unstable, so you get things like the model work, and you get some of the sets aren't real at all. It's just photocopies. So everything's flat, but at first glance, it looks like it's real. So they're like that big control room they're in. None of that is props. It's all just pictures.
Talking of pictures, I loved the your little perspective gag that you threw in the as Sam Riley's character is just getting to grips with what's going on, and the claimer goes, "No, that's just an illusion." He goes, "What do you mean?"
Yeah, and that's from like looking at a lot of. One of the things I really enjoy about YouTube is that there's a lot of essays and there's a lot of how-tos and lots of people just trying to work it out. Yeah, and like looking, there's loads of stuff like it's like how did they shoot Star Wars model work? And then there'll be someone in a garage somewhere who've done it. And how to do it. And it's fascinating. And so I'd looked at, there's a lot of websites about matte painting and glass matte painting and shift-hand process and front projection. So I looked for all that, and I saw the stuff that really amazed me was like in the past, whenever you see when you see a Hollywood movie where they've got a castle on a hill, that's usually a model that they've hung in front of the camera. Far enough away so that the focus works, but live action can happen underneath it, walking towards it. But the actual castle itself on the hill is an actual 3D model, so they can move the camera and it'll and it looks as good as anything you could do with CG, really, as long as you don't change your mind afterwards, So I was looking at stuff like that and trying to play around with it.
When you're playing with all these different time and space, when you're writing it and you're shooting it, when you went into the edit, what new story ideas revealed themselves when you started to piece it together that maybe wasn't apparent when you were in the development and production of the film?
Well, I tend to edit as I go now.
Okay.
And I edit on set. So it doesn't, it's not so much that, it's more that what would happen is you might have been a bit more conservative in the writing of it and worrying that people wouldn't understand. So you reiterate ideas, but then in the edit, you can go, I can compress this out, or this is an idea that's repeating itself, so you can take it away, or you show the film to people and they understand it in a way that you didn't expect, that, you thought they'd struggle harder. So you can then tone it down and compress it. So that's usually what happens in these days. I mean, in the past, in kind of, sightseers days or whenever, when we shot a lot of improvisation, then yes, you could reform the film in the edit. That was much more of a thing.
Yeah.
But now it's much more controlled. So I do a lot of storyboarding, and I do, and control it as much as I can so that I don't have those kinds of surprises,
Well, look, thank you for sharing that insight into Bulk. We shall now move swiftly along to 3 films that have impacted everything in your adult life. I will give you a prompt to which we will then speak for 5 minutes. about the film, or you will speak largely, I guess. And every time we hear this sound, that'll be the end of 5 minutes. You can hear that at your end, looking at the expression on your face.
I can, yes. I will evacuate my bowels now.
First on the list is 1985's Come and See, written and directed by Ellen Klimov. IMDb summary is rather reductive for such a harrowing movie. After finding an old rifle, a young boy joins the Soviet resistance movement against ruthless German forces and experiences the horrors of World War II. I mean, it is
Who
that.
wrote that? That's excellent. That's almost as bad as the one for Bulk.
Not so much a fun fact. Live ammunition was used during the filming, and interviews with Alexei Kravchenko, who plays the young boy, has described bullets passing 10 centimeters above his head. And not content with that real-life experience, the director planned to have him hypnotized by a psychotherapist during the most dreadful and violent scenes so that they wouldn't affect his young mind. However, it turned out he wasn't susceptible to hypnosis. So why does Come and See, I mean, it seems a daft question, why does Come and See have such an impact, and why is it so memorable to you?
I think what happened was I bought it on DVD because it said somewhere the greatest war film ever made or something, or greatest anti-war film ever made.
Yeah.
And then it just sat on my shelf for like 5 years, 6 years, and I was a bit afraid of it. I didn't want to watch it. And there was never a time to watch the greatest war film at that point. So then like at 11 o'clock at night, one night, I went, I wonder what it's like. I'll just watch a bit of it. And I put it on, and then it was whatever it was, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'd finished it, and I was like, Jesus, I've never seen anything like it. And it was like, I felt, and I've never seen it since. And I feel like I probably won't watch it again, but it's still one of my favorite films. And it was so affecting. I think the thing about it is it's like nothing else. The thing I took away, a big thing I took away from it was that you can be, the line between realism and kind of surrealism in filming. Like there's a world of like handheld cameras and mock documentary, and that's meant to be more real than something else. But you can make a film which is got heavy fantasy and surrealist elements in it and be more realistic than something that's purporting to be a documentary. So that's what changed me when I watched that. I went, oh my God, you can have characters looking straight down the barrel of the lens, and you feel them looking into your soul, and you can have kind of weird sojourns into stuff which is obviously kind of heavily metaphoric, but it still feels completely one with stuff that's more realistic. Or, you know, on one hand doing that, on the other hand using real explosives rather than pyrotechnics, because it would be more real, it looks like nothing else because it's so dangerous.
Yeah, no, I mean, it wasn't till I must admit, I've only seen the film the once, and largely down to the fact that I lent out my Blu-ray, and I don't know where it is now. But in saying that, then finding, in preparation for today, finding out that live bullets were used makes so much sense, because I don't think a film's ever had. I watched it on a Sunday evening with my wife. We just put it on. It certainly wasn't Heartbeat, and we both just looked at each other like when it finished, and like you said, it's the anti-war film, isn't it? Really, because
it's like when they're bombing the woods, and you can see the shockwaves in the trees. That's the thing. And when you watch something like Battle of the Bulge, I love Battle of the Bulge, but you see the explosion, they kind of puff up in the air, and there's like a massive petrol explosion, which is still the go-to explosion meta for movies, which is not a thing at all. That doesn't happen really unless an ammo dump is hit or a oil refinery is hit. It's usually just dust and shock. That was immediately, I was like, God, what is going on with this film? It was like a primal terror, I think, because you were seeing things which were dangerous.
Yeah. And the fact that they managed to be in the point of view of the young boy, but also see what the young boy sees as well as see him. It never loses sight of going back to him. We get to see it through his eyes. I mean, this is, again, I'm going off memory here. It's like, it's interesting that I couldn't give you specifics, but I remember that feel of we just.
Well, sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. I mean, there's the bit where they go back to the house and with the girl, and then they leave the house. The food is all warm, but everyone's missing. And then they leave, and he doesn't see it. He just goes ahead, and she turns back and can see the whole family's been shot.
That's right.
Up against the wall. Oh, we're off.
There's our first 5 minutes, sir. Right then, moving swiftly along, sticking to the 1980s, but jumping back to 1982 to see a vision of 2019 in Ridley Scott's adaptation of Philip K. Dick's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. We're talking about Blade Runner. Again, IMDb summary is very literal and reductive. A Blade Runner must pursue and terminate 4 replicants who stole a ship in space and have returned to Earth to find their creator. Fun fact, Philip K. Dick saw Harrison Ford as Rick Deckard on set and declared, "He has been more Deckard than I had imagined. It had been incredible. Deckard exists." And director Ridley Scott regards this movie as probably his most personal and complete movie. So where do you first come across Blade Runner, and why did it have such an impact on you?
I came across it probably as the Marvel adaptation, the 2-part comic book version of it.
Really?
Yeah, as a kid, probably only part 2 of it.
I didn't even know that even existed.
It's excellent.
Okay.
Anyway, so that was that. And then maybe I'd seen the poster, but I was too young to go and see it. And then eventually would have seen it on VHS.
Uh-huh.
And then after that, and that would have been the original version, the voiceover version.
Yeah.
And then I read the book, and I was a big, and still am a big Philip K. Dick fan. And then I watched it probably on every format I could find it on, and it was a weird obsessional thing where I watch it again and again and again, and watch it every year. And recently watched it on a projector at home on a quite high resolution thing, and I find that I see something different in it every time, and that's why I keep going back to it. So the depth of the imagery in it. And the patina of it, and the vision of the future of it, I find it endlessly fascinating. We're in a pair with Alien, but Blade Runner, I think, is the one I like the most. And then it's like the story of it is so, like the production story of it is so fascinating that it's basically the crew of the Jodorowsky Dune of, and it's some of my favorite artists, and it's like, Mobius has designed a lot of it, and then Dan O'Bannon is involved in it, obviously wrote it, but also did The Long Tomorrow, which is the strip he did with Mobius, which has been thoroughly mined, for other science fiction stuff. So there's bits of Empire Strikes Back in Long Tomorrow, and then Chris Foss, people like that. So it's a coming together of all this, this of like excellent 70s, late 70s talent, and then Ridley Scott coming off like 1,000 adverts at that point, and obviously The Duelists and Alien, and that pursuit of the image, of the layered image, that's the height of his kind of obsessional thing. And it's just interesting. It's like it's a lot of French science fiction coming together with, it also comes back to Bulk, because it's basically kind of structured out of Alphaville in a lot of ways. There's a lot of stuff from Goddard's Alphaville in it.
Okay.
And how I came to it.
And I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting. I recently had filmmaker David Nicholson Wilkerson talking about his documentary, The Marbles, and he referenced Blade Runner in a group of films for one of his choices, because it's a film that didn't happen in the box office, but it grew a life after the fact. Its long life as a film.
What does that mean, though? It's like it didn't grow a life afterwards. It was massive at the time. It's like it's never been hidden and then suddenly appeared.
Yeah.
It's always the front of science fiction.
Yeah.
It's like everywhere when it came out. Now, maybe it didn't do the numbers that they wanted.
Yeah.
But that, you know.
Oh no, it wasn't. It was more the fact that it sort of outlasted that. You know, it's lasted well beyond that. You know,
Yeah. But it was already going strong. I think at the time. It's not like something like, I don't know, Wicker Man, which is 10 years in the doldrums and then suddenly.
Oh, I see what you mean. That's what you're saying.
You know, it was just. I think people. You know, it affected everything as soon as it came out. You know, certainly, you know, it goes back into comics and affects all the look of the future is between me and Blade Runner. It's just stopping me giving my gold here.
We are entering your final choice. We are going back 5 years to 1977 to travel to a galaxy far, far away for George Lucas's space opera Star Wars. And for those who follow timelines of the whole Star Wars universe, it is apparently roughly 25,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, according to space.com.
Thank God we know that.
Fun fact, James Earl Jones and David Prowse, who played the voice and body of Darth Vader, respectively, didn't meet until 2012.
Wow. That's an extreme ventriloquism, isn't it?
Indeed. And I didn't know this. Early drafts of the script, R2-D2 could speak standard English and had rather foul vocabulary. Although all of his speech was removed, much of CP3O's reactions to it were left in. So that makes a lot of sense now in terms of how
it's the same with Chewbacca, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah, if you see the rushes, he's talking.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. What I like about Star Wars a lot is that if you think about the stormtroopers, they're all Cockneys.
Yeah.
Because it's all shot in Elstree, isn't it? So they're all Cockneys, and Chewbacca's like, "All right, mate, all right."
Again, it seems like a daft question given it's such an institution in film.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a lazy choice by me, I know, but
but it's about impact and memory. It's not about favourite or not favourite. So why is it so memorable to you?
I saw it in the cinema in 77.
Okay.
No, well, that's not true, is it? 78, because it doesn't come out here until the next year.
Yeah.
And I saw it twice as a kid, and I remember the first thing I remember is seeing someone turn up in the summer or like late summer 77 with a T-shirt on.
Okay.
With C-3PO on it, and I was like, what is that? And then I saw a thing in the Sunday Times supplement magazine, which had big colour photographs of like the spaceships and the Millennium Falcon and all that stuff. And it was like something I'd never seen before. And I wasn't old enough to understand what 2001 was or what Silent Running was or any of those things, that stuff. So it looked complete. All my only comparison to it was Doctor Who, a bit of Star Trek TV series, and Thunderbirds. So it really felt like night and day, you know. Even though as I've gotten older, I've understood that there may be a closer comparison between all those things than I first realised, because, you know, a lot of the stuff in there's props in Star Wars that are from Doctor Who and things like that, and then there's kind of, you know, the guys who made Thunderbirds end up making 2001. You know, they're all the same team.
Oh, wow.
Because they're all crossover. There's a lot of cross-pollination between all those shows. Oh, in Space 1999, of course, was the other thing I would have seen, which is, now I look back on that, it's really good when you look at it. I mean, the actual model work on it is incredible. Oh, well, that's another, I've got to do another thing at 9:30. So, it's a massive impact. And I think it's what I was also watching at the time as a kid was Buster Crabs, Flash Gordon, and those kind of 1930s, 40s serials that were showing on BBC at the same time.
Yeah.
So, and that's the direct influence on Lucas to make Star Wars anyway. So it was a weird moment of seeing the influence and the thing that had come out the other side at the same time. So you really understood it. And that love of adventure, pure adventure, and and then exotic alien planets.
Indeed. Did Star Wars become something you just followed then, as in like Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, or was?
Yeah, but not in a totally obsessional way. But I saw the original trilogy, and then I came back to the Phantom Menace as an adult, and then found that a bit more not as enjoyable at the time. But then having to come to terms with how media is made, like sometimes it's not for you. And you got to understand that, and then, all right. Then when I went back to it, another 20 years later, enjoyed it more,
Well, look, that brings us to the end of 3 films that have impacted everything in your adult life. Thank you for sharing those stories.
No worries. Hope that's helpful.
Indeed. One last thing before you go, because in regards to Bulk and thinking about the tyranny of narrative, you break the fourth wall at the end to sell us the film.
Yeah.
What was the thinking there? And obviously it's even more meta by the fact that she fluffs a line, as it were, and then we turn the camera around and reveal you and the rest of the crew.
Yeah, well, that just happened in the moment, but it is the thing of like, it's about things not being real.
Yeah.
Levels of what reality are, and that is one of the levels. It really isn't real.
Yeah, we're just making a movie.
Yeah, and then the titles at the end give you the means to make your own movie, and I think that's take control of your own narrative and then sell your own stories back to other people and show them what you've got inside of you. And I think that's I took that from punk. I mean that's the that was it Spiral Scratch or whatever on the 7-inch singles is printing how to make your own, press your own vinyl and how production works. And I think it's really important that there's not a separation there between that there's somehow it's all a bit priestly, isn't it? And like only certain special people can make stuff and other people can't unless they're told that they can by groups of other people, but it's not the case.
No. All right. Well, look, it just gives me then to say thank you very much for joining us on the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Good luck with the tour.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
Do remember to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, follow on Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts for more movies that impacted your life. And if you want to, I'd love to know what your favourite movies are, what your fondest movie memories are. So please share your favourite movies that impacted your life on Twitter. Look for @LaytonRocks. And you can always leave me a review, 5-star preferably. And in your review, tell us which 3 films impacted your life. Best ones get read out on the podcast.
Every hero strikes out on their adventure for a different reason.
To prove myself worthy of my mother's praise.
To write my own story and discover who I really am.
To prove to my family that I am more than they believe me to be.
To revive the God that has chosen me.
But when the fragile balance of the world is in jeopardy, and sinister forces move in the darkness, heroes will be tested, pushed to their limits and beyond. And it will be left to them to determine if they are up to the task. There is a darkness rising. Will they be able to overcome the challenges and meet this evil head-on?
For my God.
For my story.
For my freedom.
For the world.
To restore the balance. Modified Role Season 2, The Chronicles of Erin, a D&D 5e actual play podcast. New season, new characters, new story. Find us on all the usual podcasting apps or at modifiedrole.com.